Hello, you're listening to Father's Refuge, a podcast for men who lead, grieve, and heal with faith. Today's episode is called The Crazy Man at the End of the Road. This episode is for the dads who carry the silence, for the men who lead their families through grief. You're not alone. Let's talk about it. Crazy Man at the End of the Road. The following story takes place sometime between November of 2000 and August of 2001. I'm going back into my memories from 24 years ago, so some of the dates and times may seem to be a bit muddled. Just give me some grace and patience as I work through the memories. I remember the night that we took Jessica to the urgent care on Hilton Head Island. The doctors did a CT scan on Jessica's head to determine what the problem was. Why was she dizzy and vomiting on a regular basis? That was the question. The CT scan revealed a baseball-sized tumor on Jessica's brain. The doctors said they needed to refer Jessica to the MUSC Children's Hospital in Charleston, South Carolina. They loaded her into an ambulance and off she went. I think they gave us some time to go home, pack a bag, and head to Charleston. With Christina and Justin in the back seat of our Lincoln Town car, we followed the ambulance to the hospital in Charleston. That was about 60 minutes away from Hilton Head. So many emotions were running through us. We were scared. There was enough anxiety in the car you could cut it with a knife. We were afraid of what the future might hold for Jessica and our family. Our regular routine and my work schedule were suddenly interrupted. When a family member, especially a child, has an emergency episode, time seems to stand still. You're so focused on the moment and everything else drops into the background. Making the trip at night added to the anxiety, I think. It was dark outside and late at night. I think the darkness held a feeling of impending doom for us. We were following an ambulance to a city and hospital that we were unfamiliar with. The life of our daughter was going to be trusted to total strangers. All of this is a prelude to the crazy man at the end of the road. This event began the foundation of what was to come and why I became that crazy man. When you're in the hospital with your children and one of them is going into surgery, you're suddenly waiting for hours, not knowing what the outcome is going to be. You find yourself fighting back the urge to think of the worst-case scenario. Will Jessica make it through the surgery? How long will the surgery take? Will they be able to remove the tumor successfully? How long will the recovery be? What will life look for us in 1 or 2 weeks? There are always the bills. Let's not forget the bills. Those are always in the back of my mind. How are we going to be able to pay the medical bills? How much will they be? Come to find out, Jessica made it through the surgery, and we got the bad news. The surgeon said we have 12 months with Jessica if we're lucky. No hope whatsoever. Part of the tumor was touching the brainstem, and they could not touch it for fear of killing Jessica. While Jessica was in the hospital in Charleston, I came back to Bluffton and made arrangements with my employer and my work schedule. Luckily, I was able to work from remote. We packed up some clothes and other items that we would need to live in Charleston. We wound up staying at a motel in Charleston that had a weekly rate. Not only did we have the 2 children with us, we also had a dog and a bird. The motel staff were not thrilled that we had a dog and a bird. We stayed there for about 2 to 3 weeks, and then Katie found a place to rent on Craigslist. After it was all said and done, we moved into a double-wide mobile home in Goose Creek, South Carolina, which is about 25 minutes away from MUSC Children's Hospital. At this time in our family's life, we were homeschooling all of our children. Katie stayed home with the kids, and I earned a paycheck. Thank you for being patient and hanging in with me thus far. I needed to give you some history and context behind this episode. So, fast forward to us having moved from the motel to our new home in Goose Creek, South Carolina. Moving sucks, even in the best of times. It is really challenging when you have 3 children and one of them is in the hospital. That is always present in the back of your mind. I'm sure that my neighbors thought I was crazy. I remember going for walks on Maple Ridge Road where we lived. Now let me give you a bird's eye view of what Maple Ridge Road looked like. If you know who Jeff Foxworthy is, he in one of his skits he says, "You know you're a redneck if," right? And there was like 15 or 20 of them. So you know you're a redneck if the road leading to your house leaves the state maintenance line and drops off the pavement and goes to the end of the road. So the double-wide mobile home that we lived in was on a gravel road that literally the asphalt stopped right at the road. There was an old oak tree, and there was a end of state maintenance sign, and you had to drop off the pavement onto a gravel road, miss all the chuck holes, and make it to your house. And it flooded every time it rained. So anyway, now you understand why, if you're a redneck, if. That was my if. So I spent that time bartering with God. My hope that Jessica would be healed was very strong at the beginning of this journey. I recognized that Jessica did not belong to us, but she belonged to God. I also realized that there were two possible outcomes. Jessica would be healed here on earth and live out a normal life. The second outcome is what haunted me day and night. Jessica would not be healed on earth, but would go to be with Jesus and be healed there. As a man and a father, I'm wired to fix things. Problems come along, and it's my job to come up with a solution. Come to find out, this was a problem I could not fix. That made matters worse. Now my job was to convince God to fix my Jessica. There are 5 stages of grief, and while those 5 stages are outside of the scope of this episode, trust me when I tell you, I went through all 5 of those. Have you ever heard that men do not cry? Tough guys do not cry. They suck it up and deal with life head on. How is crying going to solve anything? My earthly father taught me that as a boy. Men do not cry. Period. When you go through something like this, all bets are off, and the tough guy act is out the window. Lots and lots of tears were shed. Early on, I had a lot of hope and faith that Jessica would be healed on earth, and we would not lose her. As time marched on, my hope in her healing and my faith in God were challenged in ways I had never dreamed of. I remember that I started drinking to dull the pain. Drinking beer, that is. On many occasions, I would walk down Maple Ridge Drive, drinking a beer and bartering with God. I started out feeling like God was listening and would hear my requests for healing. The longer it took, the more my hope and faith faltered. On some days in a thunderstorm, I would yell at God in the rain. Now let me tell you, God is my witness. I hate thunderstorms. I hate thunder. I hate lightning. Rain is okay, but when there's lightning strikes close by, I'm in the house hiding under the couch. But during this time in my life, I didn't really care. I didn't care if God struck me with lightning or not. I was upset, and I was telling God about it, very loudly. I was angry with Him for not healing Jessica fast enough. He is God of the universe, is in control of everything. I asked God to spare her life and take me instead. I knew that as a man that I was certainly a worm. If anyone needed to go, it should be me, right? I played the part of the crazy man on several occasions as I would walk up and down the street praying, crying, screaming, and pleading for God to work a miracle in Jessica's life. When this did not happen, I did not know how to deal with it. I mean, was it the sins of the father that caused this to happen to Jessica? Was I being punished, or was our family being punished for something I did in the past? Katie and I were involved in a parent support group at MUSC, Children's Hospital. I remember that I viewed the events that were unfolding in the life of our family as if we were watching a terrible storm. We would be standing on the beach watching the storm moving towards us slowly. We were both fascinated and afraid as we watched the storm coming towards us. I remember that I listened to a Christian radio station, and there was a particular song called Praise You in the Storm by Casting Crowns. Let me share the lyrics with you. I was sure by now, God, you would have reached down and wiped away our tears away. Stepped in and saved the day, and once again I say, Amen, and it's still raining. But as the thunder rolls, I barely hear your whisper through the rain. I'm with you. And as your mercy falls, I'll raise my hands and praise God who gives and takes away. And I'll praise you in the storm, and I will lift my hands, for you are who you are. No matter where I am, and every tear I've cried, you hold in your hand. You never left my side. And though my heart is torn, I will praise you in the storm. I remember when I stumbled in the rain and the wind. You heard my cry. You raised me up again, but my strength is almost gone. How can I carry on if I can't find you? But as the thunder rolls, I barely hear your whisper through the rain. I am with you. And as your mercy falls, I'll raise my hands and praise the God who gives and takes away. And I'll praise you in the storm, and I will lift my hands, for you are who you are, no matter where I am. And every tear I've cried, you hold in your hand. You never left my side. And though my heart is torn, I will praise you in the storm. I lift my eyes unto the hills. Where does my help come from? My help comes from the Lord, the maker of heaven and earth. I lift my eyes unto the hills. Where does my help come from? My help comes from the Lord, the maker of heaven and earth. I lift my eyes unto the hills. Where does my help come from? And I'll praise you in the storm, and I'll lift up my hands, for you are who you are, no matter where I am. Every tear I've cried, you hold in your hand. You never left my side. Though my heart is torn, I will praise you in the storm. And though my heart is torn, I'll praise you in the storm. As I read those lyrics, it brings a tear to my eye. The song fully encapsulates the storm we were going through and the myriads of emotions that I was feeling. Even today, that song reminds me of this grief journey and that God is still there in the storm and on the other side of it. Yes, God loved the crazy man at the end of the street in Goose Creek, South Carolina. He was ever present even when I thought he was not there. Silence is not golden. I will say this. Silence helps you to focus on your heart and those things that you are feeling. It is in that silence where you can fully understand why you have faith in God. It is also the place where you come to the realization that despite the outcome with Jessica, God is still the God of the universe. Yes, my faith was tested in a big way. God can handle our emotions, sadness, fear, anger, frustration, all of it. Yes, 24 years later, I'm still the crazy man at the end of the road. Despite the fact Katie and I are still together, and we managed to ride out that storm. Our other two children were changed as we were. Our family would never be the same. Thanks for joining me today on Father's Refuge. If this episode spoke to you, if you've been the crazy man at the end of the street, know this. You're not alone. Your grief matters. Your leadership matters, and your story deserves to be heard. And if you're a father walking through grief, I hope this space feels like refuge. Men don't talk about grief. Let's change that. You can contact me at fathersrefuge@proton.me. That's fathersrefuge@proton.me. Until next time, keep leading with love. Hello, everyone. James Moffitt here with Father's Refuge podcast. Losing a child to cancer is a grief no parent should walk through alone. The Father's Refuge podcast is a safe place for fathers and parents to share, heal, and find hope in the midst of heartbreak. I'm looking for fathers who are experiencing the grief of losing a child to cancer or are walking the treatment journey with their families. If you would be willing to share your journey with others, contact me at fathersrefuge@proton.me. That's fathersrefuge@proton.me. And now to our featured episode.